יזמר שיר ויום השבוס תיב והידס ואדינוי או זמר ושמחו אל יי להגיד בבקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילה עלי אוסר ועלי נובל עלי גויים בחיני ישמחתני אדינוי בפועלך במעשה ידיך ארני מה גודלו מעשיך אדינוי מידם כה מחשבסך נשבר וידע וכסיל יביא נסזיס בפריח רשויק מאיסה ויציצו כופי על יובן לישום דום עד יד ויעקום הרעים לילום אדינוי יבך אדינוי כי נבך יבדו אספורדו כופי על יובן ותורם קירם קרני בעלי סיי בשמן רענון ותביט עיני בשורוי בקומים אולי מראים תשמענו אוזנוי צדיק התאמר יפרח כי ארז בעווני נסגר שסולים בביס אדינוי בחצרי סלהינו יפריחו נובום בסייבה דשיינים ורעננים יהיו ולהגיד כי יושר אדינוי צורי ויבלוס בי וכי אדיננו מרינו ורבינו מלך המשיח לעולם ועד יחי אדיננו מרינו ורבינו מלך המשיח לעולם ועד יחי אדיננו מרינו ורבינו מלך המשיח לעולם ועד אבינו מלכנו שלח רפואה שלמה לקדושת אדיננו מרינו ורבינו מלך המשיח שליטה אבינו מלכנו שלח רפואה שלמה לקדושת אדיננו מרינו ורבינו מלך המשיח שליטה אבינו מלכנו שלח רפואה שלמה לקדושת אדיננו מרינו ורבינו מלך המשיח שליטה אבינו
Wissen bedvar Malchus. We will now ask mit jetzt beten Harav Rabbi Yosef Chaim Cantor, Shliach in Bangkok, Thailand, von der Mekemes HaMerchakim, was einmal gewinnt, also zugebracht Ayid zum Reben. Und ich habe ihm gesagt, dass das ist Ayid von Bangkok. Hat der Rebbe gesagt, in English, he said, you are from a place in the east which is not called near. Du bist von einer Platz in der Mizrach, was mir ruft nicht dann nannt. Der Rebbe hat nicht gewollt, der sagen, in dem Nekuda, also da Ayid, was ist weit. Und jetzt beten der Rav Rabbi Yosef Chaim Cantor, Shliach in Bangkok, zu sagen, Advar Teire.
Darf doch leben mit der Zeit. We're coming directly from Shabbos Parshas Teild, which conveys the message of ensuring the continuity of the Jewish generations, Sai Begashmius physically, and most certainly in the spiritual sense. Pashat Gedat Avedas Ashlichus. Bichlal, Nekuda of Teild is to establish generations and Pashat to make Nochayid Beruchnius. But if you take a look individually at the things that took place in Parshas Teild, the Rebbe points out that it's not so simple how we see the strong lesson of Shlichus. Yitzchak Avinu, when it looked like he was going to have to leave Eretz Yisrael because of the matzav, there was a Rav Baris, there was a famine in the land. So obviously he felt that this was his opportunity to go out on Shlichus, and when he'll have to go to Mitzrayim, he'll have to go to Eretz Haaretz, he'll be able to influence the people over there, B'nei Geya, to Emunah in Hashem Echad. He had the Eibishter comes to him and says, Al Teired Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is not a place for you. Shchein ba'aretz azois. L'chura, this takes away from the Inyan HaShlichus. Weißt noch was weiter is was nenter. That's the way we comfort ourselves. We take a look. Avimelech, Melech Gerar comes to Yitzchak after he sent him away. What does Yitzchak say to him? Madua basem elai. What are you coming over to me? Vatem snesim. You hate me. Bangkok is a very exotic place, an interesting place. When people come to ask, Nu was herzlich in Bangkok, was ist voran in Bangkok? What is there? So if it's an Olam Mishiyid, I tell them there's a kosher restaurant, the Armenian Fashachis Mincha Ma'ariv, and we even have Daf Yomi. Well, Zeir finds Doctor. So Lubavitch, I tell them, Baruch Hashem, we have Taka Paulis, we have Paulis with Eretz Yisrael, we had Rosh Hashanah 250 people, Ba'asuda. I said, and we know what? We're such a Ir Ve'em Yisrael, we even have our own Misnagid. So we have this Misnagid, Kumtetz again, and he started to join our Shiurim. So in my mind, I wanted to tell him, Madua Basim Elai Vatem Snesim, I say, you hate me, get out of here. But not because he doesn't want to. Nor but then, legt sich up as a shliach, darf sich einhalten. Shliach, but he's representing the Rebbe. Darf mekar sein jeder Yid. Over here we see that Yitzchak told him father is Madua Basem Elai. Who asked you to come over here? So the Rebbe explains that Bechlal ben Egeya to the Aveda La'asid La'avei. Mashiach is doch da, Mashiach kommt. We'll all go to Eretz Yisrael, there we'll have the permanent and the grand Kínus HaShluchim, and it will be such a Kínus HaShluchim that we won't have to go back to any other places, we'll stay there. But the Goyim have to learn the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. It's the eine von the Sachen they're going to have to do. So how are they going to learn when they get there in Yonim? All of us are going to be busy in Eretz Yisrael, we're going to be sitting and we'll be learning Torah. Teiraseh Shal Mashiach. It says in the Navi Yeshaya that V'haya b'achris hayomim, that it will be V'holchu goyim la'oreich, and the goyim themselves will say L'chu v'nale el beis Hashem. The goyim will come, they alone will be attracted because of the Gilui Mashiach to come and interest themselves and learn what they have to learn. Al derech zeh was the Aveda of Yitzchak. Steht doch in Maimer Azal and Gemara that La'asid Lava will say Liyitzchak Yata Avinu. The Mele, the Aveda by Yitzchak was already al derech the Aveda of Lasid Lavai. By him, the Aveda was an Eifen of Ha'ala, an Eifen that was an attraction. And so rather than him having to go and lower himself and go down into Ervas Haaretz, the Birurim came to him, Ad Kidei Kach, that he was able to tell Avimelech, Lama Basem Elai, and he was able to expect from Avimelech, that Avimelech Alein, that Avimelech himself will realize and be able to answer, Roi, Roinu, Ki Hoya Hashem Imach, as Klippa Alein der Kennen, as the Rebish is mit them. Aber first, comes out that Parshas Teilis is taka the Inyan of Shlichus, the unique Inyan of Shlichus of La'asid Lavai, of Yitzchak Avinu, but nonetheless, nach Eile Teilis Noach, a number of weeks before Parshas Teilis, we have a Parsha which also seemingly should be called Parshas Teilis. Nonetheless, it's called Parshas Noach. So the Rebbe pointed out 2 years ago, a Sicha, at the time of Kינוס השלוחים, that when the Eibishter comes to a Yid and tells him, Teilis, you have to go out on Shlichus, first he tells him Noach. You should know that it's Neicha B'el Yoinim or Neicha B'tachtoinim. The Eibishter gives you everything that you need, Tzai B'gashmias and Tzai B'ruchnias. Now, the time of Kינוס השלוחים, where it's the time of Teilis, Daf Metake Kumen Umonim Bam Eibishter, Zol Zayin Tzai Neicha B'el Yoinim. It's not Shayach B'chlal, a person should have any Ruchnis Yonim by himself today. That any time he starts getting involved in anything, klappt him in Kopf, der Rebbe doch nicht gesund. It's not Shayach to have Neicha B'tachtenim, avade nicht. Und Tome Emitze will beten as Azach is ochen weh. So we have to come and ask the Eibishter, as Poshet will haben the Inyan von Teilis, has to be Inyan of his Galus Mashiach. Kabbalas Mashiach. I just want to finish off L'chore, sitting in Bangkok, I was always wondering that every montach in the sichos, always Mem Zayin, all the sichos, that the worse the matzav gets, the more you have to do the Aveda B'simcha. V'yish eigentlich b'chlal to do Aveda B'simcha when the situation gets so bad. So right before I left Bangkok, there was a ma'aser that happened there. Bangkok, you have to understand, is a third world country. So the infrastructure is not set up properly. So there's not enough roads, there's too many cars, the pollution is terrible, the heat is terrible, and the policemen that stand and direct the traffic, because the traffic is so bad, many times they override the computers in the traffic systems. So they'll turn the lights green, red, and sometimes you could stand by a red light for 20 minutes. Beligos. A number of weeks ago, and all of a sudden it became a matzav that obviously the policeman had too much of the heat and of the pollution, and he wasn't wearing a mask. And all of a sudden he decided he turned all the traffic lights of the intersection to green, and it became a major traffic jam. When he started dancing. From everything you have to learn, Avedis Hashem, Taka Meshugi geworden. No, weißt du, es ist Shayach, there should be the Inyan of the Rikud, L'mayla mitam vodas, the Gili HaYechida, the Rebbe shall helfen that together with the Rebbe, Melech HaMoshiach, so again gleich in Eretz Yisrael, Misgalos Malchusay Aleinu.
Every year, ich will sagen in Jiddisch und Englisch, der folgendes, was mir geht sagen, weil es ist sehr wichtig und das ist eine gute Klolis. Jede Jahr, wenn man macht, hat so Gott, haben wir die Note Roll Call, es verschiedene Timing, für was man macht es. Zuerst macht man das, also man soll ergeben Anerkennung, die wir stehen, beim Mekim Schlichusam, und für Neues hatte dem Reben Schliches. Heinte das nicht genug, und nicht zu lieb dem macht man das heint bei Nacht. Heint bei Nacht macht man das als ein Statement. Als die Welt ist great zum Makabel sein dem Reben Melech HaMashiach. Und als wenn jeder eine wird sich wegstellen und wird sagen, als ich habe getan, was ich kann, aber es ist nicht genug, wie der Rebbe hat gesagt, weil Ladayen Leiba, nehme ich sich unter, als ich will tun, bei Jesus Eis und bei Jesus Reis, auf zugreiten sich und zugreiten der Welt, auf Kabbalas Pnei Mashiach Tzedkenu, was das ist heint der Iken Matore von der Schliches. Today, when we do the roll call, darf man es tun mit Asana Neufen, Als die Welt soll verstehen, als die Welt belangt zu dem Rebbe. The world belongs to the Rebbe. And when you applaud and when you stand up, when we mention your country or your state, you are saying a statement that the Eibishter owes to give the Rebbe Shlita refuah shleiman or refuah kreve, and that we should be zeiche, that he should immediately take us out of Golus. This is the statement of tonight's roll call, and that is why we brought the music today. Nicht, weil es ist als Mann, was man gewollt tanzen mit Musik, nur der Rebbe hat gesagt, wenn man nimmt sich unter etwas, darf es sein besimcho v'tuv levav. Ist memele, ist das es als Mann, was mich stellt sich weg und mir sagt, nimm du hoch in Kulchem. Wir sind great. Jetzt darf der Eibishter tun, das ist das Tolui Boi. We are proclaiming that we are ready, and that we will do everything that the Rebbe should have a refuah shleiman, a refuah kreve, and take us out of Golus. So this is a statement of fact tonight. It is not a clap on the plates where we are clapping each other and saying, you're doing a great job. We are today with this roll call, and we hope that the participation of the shluchim will show that with this roll call, we are delivering the world to the Rebbe. Wenn wir rufen die Medina, bet man als die, was sind da die Schluchen von jener Medina, sollen sich stellen und sollen bemachschaven haben im Sinne, dass das, was man jetzt durchgerufen und die ganze Röhlung soll geben die richtige Geherrike Mechias Kapayim, so dass die, was nehmen sich unter und erlangen oder bringen, sehen Medina zu dem Rebbe. The country of Argentina, the country of Australia, the country of Austria, the country of Belgium, the country of Brazil, the country of Canada with all their provinces, the country of Chile, die Nevuah, was der Rebbe hat gesagt, as wird kommen a Zeit that will come a time that the curtains of iron will drop, and that which the world saw, that the Rebbe's Nevuah was fulfilled in its entirety. And this is one of the simonim that we are ready for the Geulah. We will now call out those that belong to what was formerly known as the Soviet Union, but now is the Commonwealth of Independent States, and we will call them each individually, and then we will call them all together for a large round of applause. The Shluchim from Belarus, the Shluchim from Georgia, the Shluchim from Moldavia, the Shluchim from Russia, the Shluchim from the Ukraine, the Shluchim from Uzbekistan, and all together for the Amachere Mosach HaBasel, a large round of applause. The country of Colombia, the country of Costa Rica, Slovakia and Czechoslovakia. Alle wissen Kolonie Yodim, kama kochot ishkia harebi, sheyeh shleimut haaretz. Eretz Yisrael belangt zum Rebbe Zeshel Rebbe, aber mit Chila und Rotzim lahagid, shebeli השלוחים אין ארץ ישראל בשלמות. is בראשית אנו יכריזו השלוחים של יהודה ושומרון. השלוחים של עזה. השלוחים של עזה. השלוחים של ארץ הקודש, ארץ ישראל לגבולי סר. The Shluchim of France. The Shluchim of Germany. The Shluchim of Holland. The Shluchim of Hong Kong. The Shluchim of Hungary. The Shluchim of Italy. Und die Schluchim in der Stadt, von welcher gewinnt Teil zu Chassidei Chabad und wo der Rebbe gewinnt und der Friedrich Rebbe gewinnt, die Schluchim of Latvia. The Shluchim of Morocco. The Shluchim of Paraguay. The Shluchim of Peru. The Shluchim of Scotland. The Shluchim from South Africa. The Shluchim from Spain. The Shluchim from Sweden. The Shluchim from Switzerland. The Shluchim from Thailand. We mentioned the Shliach who is in the den of where the Seinei Yisrael gefunden sich, v'niftzalei mimenu, that he should be here to be mishtatef in this Kינוס, but we wish him a bracha la'atzlacha meruba, und the Keiches, was der Rebbe hat reingelegt durch dem Shliach, in jener Medina sollen Maschpia sein, als the Seinei Yisrael sollen haben am Apollo Gedele, Harav Rav Nissen Pinson from Tunisia. The Shluchim from the United Kingdom. The Shluchim from the United States, we will call your state. The Shluchim from Alabama. The Shluchim from Alaska. The Shluchim from Arizona. The Shluchim from Arkansas. The Shluchim from California. The Shluchim from Colorado. The Shluchim from Connecticut. The Shluchim from Delaware. The Shluchim from Florida. The Shluchim from Georgia. The Shluchim from Hawaii. The Shluchim from Illinois. The Shluchim from Indiana. The Shluchim from Kansas. The Shluchim from Kentucky. The Shluchim from Louisiana. The Shluchim from Maine. The Shluchim from Maryland. the Shluchim from Massachusetts, the Shluchim from Michigan, the Shluchim from Minnesota, the Shluchim from Missouri, the Shluchim from Nebraska, the Shluchim from Nevada, the Shluchim from New Hampshire, the Shluchim from New Jersey, the Shluchim, and this is all of us, the Shluchim from the Makim HaMelech, from the Empire State, was Empire made Malchus, the Kol Ha'olam Malchusei, the state of New York. Yehi Adonenu, Mereinu V'Rabbeinu, the Shluchim from North Carolina, the Shluchim from Ohio, the Shluchim from Oklahoma, the Shluchim from Oregon, the Shluchim from Pennsylvania, the Shluchim from Rhode Island, the Shluchim from South Carolina, the Shluchim from the state of Tennessee, but I would like to take this opportunity to announce a brand new Shliach from last Thursday. Rabbi Levi Klein is going to become the Shliach in Memphis, Tennessee, and let's give him a big welcome. The Shluchim from the Lone Star State of Texas, the Shluchim from Utah, the Shluchim from Vermont, the Shluchim from Virginia, the Shluchim from Washington, the Shluchim from the capital of the United States, Washington, D.C., the Shluchim from Wisconsin, the Shluchim from the country of Uruguay, the Shluchim from New Mexico, the Shluchim from Iowa, the Shluchim from Venezuela, and Akrein Choviv, somebody that is an Amakim HaMerchut B'miyoid, and Hot Mesiras Nefesh V'Shlichus, the Shliach from Kinshasa in the country of Zaire in North Africa. Die Jösas hat jetzt übergegeben die ganze Welt zum Rebben is a round of applause for the whole world. We'll ask everybody to please sit down. Es ist jetzt a Pflicht, was es sehr nicht kein Geschmack ist, man will sehr nicht gewollt machen, kein Chazokis von dem, aber wir wollen da Mannen zwei, wo sind ein Heitigsjahr weg, Shavak Shokhu Chaim Lechol Chai, eine, was es Bild in Nischkoch, was es zu ihm gewinnt, jeder eine von den Schluchen, und hat getan, und hat geholfen, und hat gebeut, hat die ganze Linie von der Schluchim, und bei Chassusse ist gewähnt, jede Jahr hat der Kינוס, sein Sorg und seine Begebenkeit zu dem Leben, und seine Begebenkeit zu Kahal Chassidei Chabad, und zu Klal Yisrael ist legendarisch, und wir werden bei Jesus Hashem morgen haben eine Gelegenheit, auf zu machen a Haskore, Lilu Nishmas Harav Rab Chaim Mordechai Isaac Rab Sholem Yisrael Chadakov, der Menal von der Merkesli an der Chinuch Machne Yisrael, der Rosh von Maskiris und der Yeshiv Rosh von Agudas Chassidei Chabad, soll sein Neshome und haben zu Einzahl Lichter Kinondenk und soll sein am Elitz Yeshiv, sein Rebbetzin, Larichis Yomim Beshonim Tevis und für die ganze Mischproche und soll dort in Pölen, hier Jöis, als ist gewähnt, a Yetze von Nichnes, bei den Reben und ist gewähnt, ein Mensch, was bemerkt, als Siri Beshonim, ist reingegangen, täglich zum Friedlichen Reben und gewiss gefindt sich dort, hatte gewiss die Gelegenheit, auf zum Mare Schölem sein, wird man im Bett im Beschämsch kol Ashluchim, als soll Mare Schölem sein bei der Rabbeim, als soll sich nehmen als Sof und an Ende, so hatte die bittere Goles und die bittere Meimed und Matzah, in welche mir gefunden sich, und der Rebbe soll gesund sein, soll haben eine vor Schleim und eine vor Kreve, und soll rausnehmen, Klal Yisrael, von dem bitteren und finsteren Goles. Lechet am Mann, eine, was ist gewesen, als Schliach in Yerushalayim, wenn meiner Jedid nehmen, und Jedid nehmen von der Sach Schluchim, und ist weggerissen geworden, bei jedem Pesemi, in der Neufen von was mir, es ist nichts, es ist Lamaila und Lamata mit Tam für das, was wir können das im Ganzen nicht verstehen. Harav Rab Sholem der Ber, Olav Sholem, Rab Chaim Shnei Zalmi Shlita Shur, man wünschen, dass seine Sprache, als in seinen Meisen Makabirim und in seinen Ionen von der Schlichus, sollen sie gefunden dem Treist und gewiss ist dort zusammen mit den alle Chassidim von allen Jahren und gewiss gefunden sich in der Echolis von der Rabbeim und wird Mare Schölem sein auf die jeden Ionen, was wir davon heint haben, der vor Schleim und der vor Kreve von Reben und die Yeskalas Melech HaMashiach. It is now my privilege to call upon somebody who is a friend of the Rebbe, if you can call somebody a friend, and who just recently printed a sefer, which just came out, and he had really ordered copies for all of the shluchim. The sefer is unique because it is called Guidance from the Rebbe. And in this sefer, there is a transcript of the Yechidesen, which this individual had from the years 1961 through 1993 mit der Rebbe soll gesund sein. In looking for somebody to address the shluchim today, we looked for someone who was a chassid of the Rebbe, but more than that, he was zeiche, that he has children that are shluchim of the Rebbe. And for that he can take pride that his children are in the tzavot HaShluchim, that they are in the Rebbe's army, for that he has raised such children with the guidance of the Rebbe, and you will be, Ezra Hashem, be receiving this sefer, this monumental book of letters and transcripts of word for word of Yechidasim from the Rebbe. For this, he deserves our honor and our recognition. Aside from the fact that he is one of the major benefactors of Lubavitch in the United Kingdom and in Eretz Yisrael, but he asked me not to say anything about him, so I will not. But I would like to introduce to you Mr. Peter Combs from London, England, who will deliver a message of greeting to the Shluchim in honor of the Kינוס השלוחים. Mr. Combs.
Rabbanim, Shluchim, Yedidim. It's always exhilarating to be in 770, with the feeling of being at the center of the world where the real action lies. No matter how tired you are when you arrive, you can be sure that you'll leave even more exhausted. And yet, somehow, with all your batteries recharged, ready to take on everyone and everything. And how much more so in the company of the Shluchim, the pride and joy of the Rebbe Shlita, may he be blessed and restored speedily to full health. There are two other reasons, though, for accepting the invitation to speak here tonight. The first is connected to a promise I made to the Rebbe, which I will explain later. The second is the strong feeling that at this particular time I should try to share with you some of the incredible store of inspiration and energy which I was fortunate enough to have invested in me by the Rebbe Shlita in many hours of personal yechidus in almost 30 years. I've recorded the greater part in detail in the book Guidance for the Rebbe, which some of you may have seen, and as Rabbi Kotlavsky said, copies were specially printed and shipped here to be given to all the shluchim, but somehow or other they ended up still in the customs in New York. From the very first yechidus, I had the idea to keep a notepad next to me and to scribble down some of the key phrases of the Rebbe as he said them. And then immediately after the yechidus, I would sit up there for as long as it took, using the brief notes to recapture, as far as possible, the full text and spirit of what had passed. We all know that the Rebbe's choice of words has a definitive quality, and to change a single one is to risk losing the clarity and precision of the whole. My original intention was simply to reduce the many pages just sitting in my files to a more readable format for my immediate family and perhaps close friends. And with 4 daughters and sons-in-law, 2 of whom are shluchim, we sure have much need for guidance. But as I studied the notes afresh, after such a long interval, it was not only the wisdom and the spirituality which came through, but also the Rebbe's warmth, humor, and chesed. Above all, the outstanding positiveness which, acting as a kind of mirror, sends back to the visitor a reflection of himself, but illuminated and uplifted. Alone with the Rebbe, the Malchus seems for the moment to be withdrawn, and before you is a patient and true friend, one who knows you and loves you, aware of your many failings, but seemingly ignoring them, and instead radiating confidence in your ability to meet the new challenges that he continuously opens up before you. I knew, of course, when I went first to the Rebbe that it was an important occasion, but I did not anticipate the extent to which my life and that of my whole family would be enhanced. And rereading the notes, my wife and I were surprised many times by the hidden depth of what was supposed to us to be familiar material. The Rebbe's comment at the end of our very first yechidus, "Is this all right for the first meeting?" was, with hindsight, more than a polite signing off. It was really an invitation to me to think over what level of relationship was I ready to commit to. And the second yechidus 2 years later seems now to have been somewhat superficial on my part. But fortunately, the subject matter of the third yechidus, the question of taking my family after years of detailed planning on Aliyah to Israel, transformed the situation. It was impossible even to imagine that the Rebbe would not approve. But then his totally unexpected opposition brought every scrap of my kishkas on the table and incidentally revealed to me a side of the Rebbe like granite, immovable. With remorseless logic, he exposed my reasoning as 100% wrong. All the advantages I saw were really disadvantages, and vice versa. And it was the passion and the spontaneity forced on me by the seriousness of the decision as I saw it that led to a response from the Rebbe in like measure. And that was the foundation, I believe, of the relationship which followed. It was also the cause of the Rebbe sharing with us a precious insight into his own deep connection with Israel. When, in the year following that Yechidus, I blurted out that the decision not to emigrate did not mean we had lost our feelings for the Holy Land, the Rebbe's response was, Chas v'sholem that it should. I too do not lose my identity with Israel, even though I sit here in Brooklyn. And with a smile the Rebbe said, you accept that you can be a better service to Israel from outside, even if you will be written about in the newspaper that you listened to some eccentric person in America who thinks it is not the only solution for everyone to go to Israel. When I mentioned to the Rebbe that Tzemach Tzedek was one of the most beautiful synagogues in Jerusalem, the Rebbe corrected me. It is the most beautiful synagogue. There are a number of statements over the years which could make a kind of Shulchan Aruch of the Rebbe's guidelines. Some of them show particular foresight, and it may be especially helpful in today's difficult circumstances when it is sadly not always possible for individuals to receive detailed and complete answers. In a comment made more than 20 years ago, the Rebbe showed very clearly his opposition to public demonstrations and his preference for effective behind-the-scenes pressure. At that time, the demonstrations were being carried out by well-meaning supporters of Soviet Jewry. The Rebbe was forced to withhold comment entirely because, as he said, his words in support of Jewish rights in the then Soviet Union would be distorted by the real opponents, the Soviet authorities. On the question of the territories, the Rebbe, quite unexpectedly and at his own initiative, spoke for over an hour in the Yechidus in 1974 on the foolishness of senior politicians in the Israeli government who were already rushing to give back the territories in the hope of gaining the approval of world opinion. No words written today on these sensitive issues could be more relevant and clear. Between 1980 and 1982, in 19 pages of correspondence with the former chief rabbi of England, Emanuel Jacobowitz, the Rebbe set out the halachic reasons based on pekuach nefesh, not on the sanctity of the land, in which his views were based. This correspondence is summarized in an appendix to the book. There were a number of other specific guidelines. In response to a proposal for school cutbacks due to financial pressures, the Rebbe said, an educational institute does not push away a student, boy or girl. Excuse me, 1 second. Even for one day, because there is no certainty that tomorrow he will see him. This is a sofek pekuach nefesh for all his life. When he was asked about a girl, in this case my daughter, undertaking studies at art school, the Rebbe pointed out the dangers. He said, you know the brocha printed in the siddur that we say every morning, has the same content for tzaddikim as for others. And it asks that God Almighty should not put us to temptation. David HaMelech was 60 years old when he asked God Almighty to test him. His demand was accepted and he failed. So he included in his prayer a request not to be put to temptation. A school of art is not only teaching art, it has a special atmosphere which is not agreeable with Jewishness. In response to a question from one still outside Chabad, the Rebbe said, I'm not enthusiastic if somebody says he is committed to Chabad. I prefer inspiration. We try to persuade you that it is best for you, but it is up to you. You should look without prejudice until you feel this is a part of your way of life. The Rebbe is, of course, very sensitive to those who, perhaps subconsciously, try to manipulate answers and avoid facing their own responsibility for decisions. When I said to the Rebbe, when people are aware of your views and wish to do the opposite, the Rebbe completed my sentence. They do not ask. The Rebbe once commented, if a person doesn't ask for your advice, you shouldn't give it. And to me, do you want a bracha or my advice? And to discuss the whole matter. And if you ask, be prepared for an answer which can be no. On a business matter, but I believe this applies equally to personal issues, the Rebbe responded, what I said to one particular investor was not an order. It was meant only as general advice. You should not search for interpretations in my words, but only take their simple, literal meaning. But there are two compelling guidelines which should perhaps be set down in tablets of stone for every shaliach. The first, each and every one of us has been mobilized by divine providence to wage the battle for Yiddishkeit in a specific place. And it is not for a military man to forsake his post and all the military personnel around him and the cities on the scene which he is to defend, because he found, in his opinion, another place where the battle is easier. Especially if he is an officer over 50s, an officer over hundreds, or over thousands. And the second, it is further well to bear in mind that together with the task which God places on a person, the necessary capabilities are provided by him to carry out the task in the best possible way. The greater the challenge, the greater the capability which God provides. But, wishing to give the human being full credit for the accomplishment, God does not make it too easy. And there are sometimes difficulties and problems to overcome, which indeed can be overcome, provided there is will and...
And so, my Rebbetzin and myself were sent back there some Lamed Beis Shonim years ago. But maybe because really I had a previous shlichus to that. My previous shlichus from Merkaz Linyane Chinuch also came directly from the Rebbe Shlita, and I may be one of the few, or maybe the only, that was sent directly by the Rebbe Shlita on a shlichus of Merkaz Linyane Chinuch. My whole beginning is from the shlichus of Merkaz Linyane Chinuch, and goes back more than 40 years ago on the summer Merkos shlichus, where Rabbi Krinsky and Rabbi Mendel Shem Tov came to the Twin Cities. And there was a young teenage boy on the streets of Minneapolis who saw those two very young and serious-looking young men and took a liking to them and went up to them. And that began my involvement with the Merkaz L'Inyonei Chinuch, the educational arm of the Lubavitcher Hasidic movement. And how many know that that is the official name? I had a radio program when I first came to the Twin Cities and kept it up for many years. And I would begin our radio program with, "Good morning and welcome once more to Shema Yisrael, the Jewish educational program brought to you by the Merkaz L'Inyonei Chinuch, the educational arm of the Lubavitcher Hasidic movement." My first shlichus, I was a Talmud of a different yeshiva. It was a few years after Rabbi Krinsky came to the Twin Cities. And it was here in this base medrash, and it was much smaller, that I saw him again. It was in Tofshin Yudalit. And he asked me to learn Chassidus, and I couldn't refuse him because I remember the tremendous good impression, role model impression that he made on myself. And so I acquiesced, and we learned. And we learned for 9 months together. But I didn't go to Farbrengenishen. He asked me to come to Farbrengenishen. I didn't go. I regret it now. But he was patient, and we learned Chassidus, and we learned for 9 months. And then he said, "Would you like to see the Rebbe Shlita?" You can see how this dates me when I was asked. He could probably arrange a yechidus for myself with the Rebbe Shlita. Of course, this was around Yud Beis Tammuz time, and I came to my first Farbringenish. And I understood Yiddish, and I heard the Rebbe speaking, and the Rebbe was speaking about Merkez Shlichus. And the Rebbe spoke about, and I remember the Sikha, about how the Bachramlich go in the cities, and the yarmulke is sticking out from under the head, and the tzitzis are out, and the Bachram are walking and don't realize that they're being observed, and someone looking from the window is inspired and doesn't realize actually what was the source of his inspiration. The Bachram certainly don't know that they, just by walking there, are inspiring. So the Noisen doesn't know who the Makabel is, and the Makabel doesn't know who the Noisen is. And this is the highest level of tzedakah. And I remember standing right here, and it was maybe 1/8 of what this shul is now. And it didn't have a roof. And I was standing and thinking to myself that this is a wonderful way to spend the summer, to go with the shluchim. It's adventuresome, and you're accomplishing the Yiddishkeit. But I'm not a Lubavitcher Talmud. And I kept this in myself for a week, going around how I would love to spend the summer that way, but I don't qualify, because I'm not a Talmud of the Lubavitcher Yeshiva. And then I had the Yechidus. And I was able to go into the Rebbe, ask a number of questions, one of them on behalf of my parents. They asked, I had both children in New York, learning in yeshivas, my sister and myself, should they come, move from the Twin Cities to New York? The Rebbe told me to tell them no, Minneapolis needs them more, they're from the Frum families there. It was about 7 minutes, and I was about to leave when the Rebbe stopped me. And the Rebbe said in Yiddish, Du wat gewähnt, ob du was mitgefahren, mit den Schluchim, was kommen auf dein Ort. Weißt doch, die Schluchim, was gehen reisen in Summe. Amerikas sind ja nicht genug. And the Rebbe stopped for a moment and gave me a smile with his holy, lichtige upon him that took me through and through, and he said the words, Du willst doch fahren, ja? And of course, the Rebbe didn't wait for an answer, and he said, Oib die Bochern wollen gehen in Erter, fahr dein Ort, sollst du bleiben da, und nachdem wirst du gehen nachher, und gehen mit der Bochern für. Und Tomer gehen sie auf Erter weiter, kannst du hingehen und wirst gehen mit sie. And so, Rabbi Leibel Raskin and Yossel Rosenfeld, I came out and I told them, I'm going with you. And that was my first shlichus, directly from the Rebbe Shlita. Maybe that's why I have this chus to stand before you tonight, because I'm from the older shluchim, and I saw the development of Merkaz Li'inyanei Chinuch. And we're now some 40 years after my original involvement, and you see the roll call. And you look at the Sefer HaShluchim. It is awesome. The tremendous growth. What the Rebbe has created. Fellow Shluchim, what a schus we have to be part of the most successful Jewish organization in the world. Let me read to you a few words, not from one who was a friend of Lubavitch, but appeared in a newspaper, a rabbi who's not Orthodox. But when I say these words, it's one thing for me to stand here and toot our horn, the most successful organization. But when a rabbi, well-known rabbi, writes as follows, I have been following with great expectation the coming of the Messiah. He is apparently in Crown Heights. He made the cover of the New York Times magazine. He is called the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Many of my friends who are very, very liberal mock the Lubavitchers. I never do. I don't agree with their ideology. It's not my Jewish cup of tea. But I do not mock people who have become the most successful Jewish organization in North America. His one mistake, of course, is that he only knows about North America. Were he here tonight, he would see the most successful Jewish organization in the world. And so, my friends, it's a meredikis chus to be counted as an arm of the Lubavitcher Hasidic movement. And what does that mean? That means the arm of the Rebbe soll gesund sein. The theme is lahochin atzmei v'ha'elam kuloi lekabel pnei Mashiach tzidkenu. My friends, we are the most powerful Jewish organization. And Baruch Hashem, there is a togetherness here, an achdus which prevails. You know, yesterday I missed something at the Mav Malkut. I was tremendously inspired, but I missed something, only that I personally missed it because I didn't hear the Baal Shem Tov's name being mentioned. Now, I was able to have a personal hayrah, and maybe I haven't shared it, because I don't think it's a personal hayrah, because the Rebbe said it to me on a Motzei Shabbos, and I should share it. And maybe next year at the Kийнus HaShluchim in Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh, or the next Lava Malcolm, which Hashem should be together with the Rebbe this coming Motzei Shabbos, the Baal Shem Tov will be mentioned. I was on a Yechidus Motzei Shabbos, still as a Bacher, and with my parents. And we had mentioned that we're going to a Lava Malka from here. Somehow it came up in the talk. And the Rebbe said, geht auf am Lava Malka? Darf men der Mannen der Baal Shem Tov? Didn't say, du darfst der Mannen. So I share this with you. Auf am Lava Malka, darf men der Mannen the Baal Shem Tov, and he didn't say anything about the 3 Lav Davkes. And so in the Twin Cities, all the time, we mention the Baal Shem Tov. And maybe I'll mention a word, this is an extension, the Kийнus is part, and it's just Sunday. And a word, and I'll mention who I heard it from, so I'll be maybe Geula Loilam, heard it from Reb Moshe Ruben, maybe live and be well. In the name of the Baal Shem Tov. Shnayim sheyeshvim ve'ein beineihem is divrei Torah. Shnayim sheyeshvim, 2 Jews are together, and there's nothing between them. There's no machitza. There's nothing separating them. Divrei Torah, that's Torah. My friends, when there are 1,000 plus sitting together, and ein beineihem, that is divrei Torah, and that is the divrei Torah which will be making atzmeinu and the olam kulo lekabel pnei Mashiach tzidkenu. But ein gut ist besser, nicht besser. And I heard that from the Rebbe, and that was directed to me. V'hadgosha an lahachin atzma v'ha'elam kulo lekabel pnei Mashiach tzidkenu. There can become differences of opinion on how you do this. I want to share a little story with you that happened just a few weeks ago, a month. I was here, Parshas Noach, and I had to meet somebody in Borough Park, and they ordered a cab coming back, and it was a Russian cab driver. I had to make a plane that afternoon to make it to a chasana in the Twin Cities. But the Russian fellow, I asked him, do you know about tefillin? He never heard about tefillin. Never heard about it. But I determined that he was Jewish, his mother was Jewish, his father was Jewish. So whatever's going to be, I'll make the plan, but I've got to like tefillin with him. And so, took him outside of the car, parked right over here in front of 706. Took him out, put on the tefillin with him, said the Shema Yisrael, Harini Makabel, Tzadikim. I felt good. I had the tefillin on top of the car, the zeklach in the covers, and put them back inside. I reached up with my hand to take the tefillin, and all of a sudden, plop, on my hand. I feel a warm gush, and something came down milmaila. It was liquidy. And I give a look, and this is the suit that I have to wear to the chasana. And I give a look, like a figure that flew by. And I'm now holding the tefillin like this. I have to run up into 706 to my son's apartment. And my daughter-in-law, may she live and be well, a daughter of a shliach. And she sees her, I'm like this, and I'm pointing to her, and I have to have it taken, and I'm holding the tefillin, and of course, funny, but she doesn't laugh. She's the daughter of a shliach, but I went up to my son, and I must say, you know, my Mendel, and I come in and point to him, and he's, oh, this whole thing on his father's jacket, it's just, it's funny, but I have to get it off. And wait till they tell their mother, yet was come on that a Vogel hat angeregnet auf dem Taten. Simcha is groß. And they take care of it. They take care of it, Baruch Hashem, they take care of it. But we asked the question with the Baal Shem Eden. I felt so good. I did a mitzvah like that, and noch hakakafte the loimon achfilin. And so I say, no, the Mendel Lama also Hashem, because I said Taki was after the mitzvah, and it was in the levush and not on the etzem. Aber Lama also Hashem gesagt. So Mendel tells me, did you talk to him about Mashiach? What should I tell you? But my friends, in a more serious vein, how do you talk to a Russian who knows there's a God? I mean, that we did get through that. Never heard of tefillin. How do you talk about Mashiach? Now I have to. And we'll talk about that a little later, because I think there's one solution coming out of this kínus that everybody agrees on. This card that one can give. We have to come up with ideas. The union of lahochin atzmoi. The keynote. My friends, the keynote address is given by the Rebbe Shlit. The keynote to everything and to our life is the Rebbe Shlita. But the keynote that I want to share with you is the Sikha. I share with you because the Hadgosha here is that in preparing lekabel pnei Mashiach tzidkenu ha'olam kulo, first we have to prepare ourselves, and as ourselves we have to have this reus, this ava, this achva, and the Rebbe gave the keynote in the most recent sikha that we were zeiche to hear from the Rebbe Shlita. And we hope and we pray that yet in this kínus we will zeiche to hear the Zise Stimme, the heilige Stimme from the Rebbe talking to us. When we came here on Friday afternoon, that which ripped our hearts, standing by here, and the Rebbe going to the hospital, and people were talking, and I saw some of my mishpoim, and they're looking at me. What should I say? I told them, the Rebbe brought us up with tracht gut, wird sein gut. One of our mushpos made a button to that effect in English. Think good, it will be good. Tracht gut, wird sein gut. So we have to do that. And Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe came back for Shabbos. Though we're able to help him that we should hear, take it from the yad. Tracht's gut, wird sein gut. But the Rebbe said it, the Rebbe told all of us. And this is something which is so necessary for all of us, shluchim and chasidim and Klal Yisrael, where the Rebbe spoke about Avas Yisrael. In that Sikha, on Shabbos, Parshas Vayakhel, Chof Hei Adar Aleph, Tov Shin Nun Beis. And you know what the Rebbe said? Bat Machzis HaShekel, Meire Ala Avodas, the Achtus Yisrael. V'lochein Madgishkim Sh'asher Yehudi Nimtza B'fnei Atzmoi, Harei Hu Rak Machzis, Uf Dei Liyosh Shekel HaKodesh, Olav Li's Achedim Yehudi Sheni. Ad Li's Achedim Kol Echad Echad B'nei Yisrael. וזהו קיום המצווה ואהבת לרעך כמוך. שפירוש רעך הוא לא רק יהודי שנמצא קרוב אליו, אלא אפילו יהודי שנמצא בקצווי תבל. והסיבוב הזה הוא, כמו שכוסו באדמו הזוקים בתניא, שכל אחד ואחד בני ישראל הוא חלק הלקה ממעל ממש, והרי העצם, כשאת תופס במצוסוי, אתה תופס בכולו. And then the Rebbe adds, and this is the crucial part, והרי כל בני ישראל הם מציע אחת, ואפילו במקרה שיש לשלו אצל חברי עניין בלתי רצוי, is הרי הצורה הכי יעילה לפעול זאת הוא על ידי שמשפיע עליו בדרכי נוים ובדרכי שלום. This the Rebbe is telling us 2 days before that which took place. B'darkei noyam u'b'darkei shalom. And the word, this was said in Yiddish. I have it here, and I understand that this is Muga, but it's in Hebrew. But the point here is, Hachi Ya'ila, the most, I believe, effective. We want results, not arguments. You know, I'm a car salesman's son. My father, may he live and be well, and he was the one that got the hira from the Rebbe. My father live and be well. He's in Kfar Chabad. My father got the hira from the Rebbe after my mother passed away, and my father came here, and he asked at that time, should he come to the Twin Cities now, from the Twin Cities to New York? And the Rebbe told him then, no. We darf Moshe schicken auf Ashlichus, und wir werden schicken in Minnesota. And that's when I got the indication that I was ticketed for Minnesota. My father sold cars for 36 years in St. Paul, Minnesota. You know, and then I took him and settled him about 8 years ago in Kfar Chabad, where he participated for many years in the Kedel Teferes Zechariah Levi Yitzchak. And as a car salesman, my father taught me something, and I go by it, talking about Ha'ifan Achiyah Ilah. My father said, the automobile salesmen have this motto: win an argument, lose a customer. We're out to win customers, not arguments. So the first thing is that there can't be arguments amongst ourselves. There isn't time for me to read something that I wanted to read to you, but I read this up and I pointed out in the Kesser Shem Tov, in Parshas Kedoshi, where the Baal Shem Tov speaks about when there is negative feeling in the heart of one Jew to a fellow Jew, then it's not sufficient. There you have the loisisnos achicha b'bavecha. It's insufficient if you rid your heart from that hate. That's insufficient. You know that another Jew has ill will towards you in his heart, then the mitzvah of ahavta l'reacha kamocha behooves you to go to him, and that's difficult. How the Alter Rebbe screams, no v'no litroyach. Work hard, it's hard. Go to him. And he says, the Baal Shem Tov says there, that the Sibba, obviously, that the other person, we're talking about Yirei Shemayim, we're talking about Chassidim. The reason why the other person dislikes you is because he feels your derech is wrong. So he dislikes you, so he has hate even in his heart towards you. The mitzvah of heichiach, teichiach es hamisecha is not only reproach, rebuke, but prove, heichacha. Prove to him that your derech is right. V'leisisa olav hate. You should not allow him to have the hate of disliking you. So go over and talk it out amongst Hasidim. Dialogue. Briefly share with you a very, I know a Rishain, a thought of a Rishain, the Rabbeinu Yonah, in Ovis, on Leiv Toiv, where the Rabbeinu Yonah says, I have all these papers here, the Rabbeinu Yonah says, on the inyan of Leiv Toiv, how does he teach ois Leiv Toiv, which that is the greatest midah that Yochanan ben Zakkai points out, and he accepts that when Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch says Leiv Toiv, he says there savlonis, tolerance. And he says that even if somebody does him a wrong, he's civil, he's tolerant, and speaks to him pleasantly. And he says, Chekei mamtakim v'kulo machmadim. That's the kind of people we have to do. If we're going to bring, that's the kind of people we have to be. So first we have to be that amongst ourselves. My friends, we walked by the Rebbe tonight. Baruch Hashem. Tracht gut wird sein gut. Visera of Achdus and Avos Yisrael amongst us and amongst all Hasidim. If we fulfill it, this is lahachines atzmai. But there's another lahachines atzmai that we have to take into consideration in terms of how we relate to the whole world. And I want to read that also the Rebbe gave. The Rebbe gave the keynote in one of his sikhs. And that is the inyan, you know, as difficult as it is to say this, and people don't like to hear it, and I don't like to learn it and hear it and see it, but we have to put this whole scene in the perspective of nevuah and prophecy. The Gemara says on the Pasuk of V'harechei b'yiras Hashem Amar Rab Alexandri Melamed Shehitinoi Mitzvahs V'yisurim Kerechayim on Mashiach. Don't have to go through the whole litany and the dialogue between God and Mashiach in the Sheish Shemei Bereshis or before the Sheish Shemei Bereshis. But this is the context in what we're witnessing in this time of Geula. I don't want to read you the Marsha. It's there. Go read it yourselves. The Gemara in Tzadik Gimel in Sanhedrin. Look at the Marsha there. But the point that I want to bring out is hitinoi yisurim v'mitzvahs kirachayim. Who's hitino? God. Hitino, he loaded Mashiach. He loaded the Rebbe Shlita with mitzvahs and yisurim kirachayim. And that's part of the process of the Geula. And in retrospect, let's learn this. Let's not talk about it now. But I want to talk about the Hitina, the mitzvahs, the Yisurim, what they genommen auf sich. But the mitzvahs, that load is on us. And when we accept that load, that will lessen the Yisurim. I want to read this Hora'ah from the Rebbe, from a Sikha that the Rebbe gave. The Sikha was Shabbos Pasha Shmois, Yutes Tevis, to Nostlagi. And the Rebbe says, and the Rebbe gives this keynote to all of us. V'lachein yesh la'oided u'lachazek es rucham shel bnei Yisrael ayedei ha'achraza sha'akarish baruch hu oimer b'chol yom ba'oifen dechodesh mamash pokoid pokarti eschem u'mishiach tzidkeinu oimed achar kosleinu v'hinei zeh v'yesh li hiskoinen lekabel es ponov al yidei ha'hisofa b'kiyum ha'torah v'ha'mitzvos. Al yidei ha'hisofa. The Almighty loaded the Rebbe, and this started way back when the Rebbe proliferated, and it's hard to even, when the Rebbe always is asking for hisofa and Torah and mitzvos, and the Rebbe gave us the mivtzoi, and the Rebbe with the hope of B'nareinu, B'zkeneinu, Nelech, we've organized all the organizations, Nishei Chabad and Tzivos Hashem and Tiferes Zekeim, all the young, and the Rebbe constantly loading us because he was being loaded. This is the Hera. This was the process of the Geula. This is the process of the Geula. Hitinu mitzvahs kirachai. So the least that we can do, is can't be business as usual. It has to be, everybody has to take upon himself, every shliach, that there should be a sofa. I know personally, in the union of mitzvahs film, I try my best that it shouldn't be just like it's not possible that I shouldn't lay film every day. It's not possible that I shouldn't at least find one Jew and have to go around before Shkia running around looking for somebody. And I don't find anybody else, I run to my Russian barber. Oh, but there has to be the union of putting on tefillin with another Jew. And there should never be a metzias of not putting on tefillin with a Jew because I didn't have the tefillin with me. Shaimu Shamayim. The Rebbe ends up over here. Ha'isofah b'kiyum ha'torah mitzvos kipsak din harambam. That sha'al yedei mitzvah achas hichriya es atzmoi ves kol ha'olam kuloi lekav schus v'goram loi v'lahem tshuva v'atzola. How many times have we heard this from the Rebbe? Can there be a metzias of any shliach ever leaving his home without tefillin in his teeth? When there was a Jew that he could have put on tefillin with, if he only would have, but he didn't have his tefillin with him. Shame Shemayim, is there such a thing as a policeman when he's off duty, not having his revolver with him? And how many times were situations say that the off-duty policeman saved the situation? But Chaveira, we are never off duty. There can't be if we believe. If we accept this, then we see a Jewish arm and a Jewish head. Now, like Rabbi Futterfas says, I Jew, you Jew, tefillin. That's it, you see, whatever you're into. And whatever the Yetzer comes to me all the time. This one, he won't do it. This situation, what, you're going to get out of the street, you're going to get out of your car and you run into him, stop him on the street and put on film. So it does not, no, I get out there, and he does it, and we go up into his project, and he becomes happy. Or another one, go back, turn around, the Yitzhahara tells you, no, don't, this Jewish assistant editor of the press, the other one you put on film, but he's not going to want to do it. No, it bothers me, go back, in there, put it on film with him. The man's a maniach film b'chol yom because of this. I'm probably not unique in this, but Meir Rabbi, Hitinu mitzvahs kirachayim. If we accept this, then there can't be a mitzvah of leaving a house without a pair of tefillin, no matter what you are. In whatever station, whatever area, whatever Indian. You must give that opportunity to another Jew to fulfill this mitzvah, and maybe that will be the mitzvah which will be machias atzmavis kol ha'olam kulo, and bring the geula. This is a kínus. It's grown every year, the kínusi. And it's something which gives us inspiration. You know, I wanted to mention something else too. The time is late. You know, on top of all the mitzvahs that the Rebbe loaded us with, there was a time that we only had to worry about 15 million. But then the Rebbe came along about a decade ago and said you have to worry about 5 billion. Einem Yehudi. The mitzvahs, Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. And so the Rebbe put that out. If there was a mitzvah that you could travel on a plane and you didn't have a Jew next to you so you could sleep, no more. Because you have to talk with the Eina Yehudi about the Rebbeinu Shalom, that there's a God, has Sheva mitzvahs, and you have to do it. And it's niskabel. I must share with you, some of you might have heard this, but I had a fantastic incident once. You know, the Rebbe said, so I do it, I go. In fact, I go to the bank, our bank, and wherever I go, if it's on a plane, I go, and people ask me, how are you? I say, fine, thank God. And how are you? And the person says, oh, just fine. Thank God also. And if all the ladies in the bank know that's what they have to answer when I say, and how are you? And they all know they will say, thank God. Shem Shemaim Shag B'Fi. That we are God's ambassadors. We have to bring out the name of God. Well, one day, I jumped into a taxi. Coming out, and this was after the Sheva Mitzvahs, and so I go into my routine, and the driver is a black Haitian. He's driving me, and as soon as we drive out into the freeway, I ask him, did you thank God today? And he turns around to me, and I almost fall out of the cab, because he says, Baruch Hashem Yom Yom. Another take. I take it. You don't look Jewish. Baruch Hashem Yom. I said, where does that come to you? He said, I know I'd get you with that. I said, but where does this come to you? And he tells me, I worked for 6 years on the east side by a Hasidic Jew with a beard, and I used to go into the store every day with him, and as he opened the door every day during those 6 days of the week, he said, Baruch Hashem Yom Yom. Really happened. It's humorous, but it's, look at the impression. He knew what it meant. I asked him, did you thank God? And he said, Baruch Hashem. Yeah. The Rebbe wants that. I had the Meirdik Yischus of opening the U.S. Senate with a prayer and mentioning the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. Something which gave nachas to the Rebbe Shlita. Particularly, he said, the psicha of my psicha, where I said that the mitzvah of government, the senators are assembled there to govern by law, and that's one of the Sheva Mitzvahs. Dinim. I want to conclude. I want to mention something that we talked, how are we going to deal with a Russian cab driver who doesn't know about tefillin. There's something that's come out of this kínus, and it's this been talked about already, but the good card comes with this brochure, and it's just being formulated, and people are invited to give in their opinions. But I think that if we have this with us, if it's printed in different languages, then I could give it to that Russian cab driver in Russian, something about Mashiach. That is an answer. And that is something I believe that all the shluchim are united with. And this is an Indian which, as it was read, it talks about for 5 billion. The Rebbe said, mein Appetit kann man nicht unsättigen. The Rebbe wants 15 million Jews and 5 billion Goyim, non-Jews, to believe in God. And this is a beginning. My friends, I opened with calling our organization, and I say this dates me, but like I relate to America's Linyane Chinuch, the educational arm of the Lubavitcher Hasidic movement. Yeshaya ends. The whole Indian in Perek Nun Gimel in Yeshaya, where it talks about this situation that we're in, and it reads there, and that's what we're going through, and the angels to help that all this and all should be in the past. Hashem chofetz tatay hakeli im tosim osham nafshoy yira zera yairich yomim, and that yairich yomim, like the Ramban says, oirich yomim oilam voed nitzchius. We hope that this shluchim, this kínus ashluchim of the educational arm of the Lubavitcher Hasidic movement, we are the Rebbe's arm, shliches tamyad nisrav. And the Novi concludes, and this should be tekef umiyad v'chefetz Hashem biyodoi yitzlach. The chefetz, the desire of the Rebbeinu Shalom, will be fulfilled through Mashiach, and we are zeiche to be Yodov Shluchov Yechi Adeineinu Moireinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Li'elam V'ed.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Feller. Wir machen wir können es losen 2 Minuten, mamisch. Lass es 2 Minuten. Wir machen die folgende Hakrose. Wir hoffen, wie Jesus Hashem, als morgen, weil die, was nicht gehabt, keine Gelegenheit haben, zugehen zum Reden, weil haben die Gelegenheit, wir wollten gewollt, wir wollen es prüfen machen, wie früh in Tag wir wird kennen, gedeiht zu ermöglichen, die, was davon wegführen. Der Hemmschicht von den Kindern wird sein morgen in der Früh 8 Säge, wenn wir mit lernen Chassidus in der Liteire. Wir beten, dass alle sollen sich mit Stativ sein. Und die Programme so gedruckt. Und mit seinen 10 Säge wird man essen und gleich danach wird wollen sein gewisse Sitzungen. Und danach wollen wir zusammenkommen für Haskore und gleich noch dann wird man zusammenkommen und vornehmen der Achlotes. Ich hoffen wir morgen, wie Jesus Hashem, wir wissen noch nicht wo, aber es ist dort zugegräht geworden, kedei zu können einwickeln, oder die alle Gedanken, was Menschen haben, wie wir können bringen Mashiach zu der Welt, ist da ein Expo, was ist zugegräht von der Schluchim Office. Und man hat gehofft, dass wir haben eine passige Saal, was soll sein groß genug da in Crown Heights, in welchem wir das können ausstellen. Aber weißt du, es wird nicht können sein, da, aber wir suchen eine Saal. Und bei Jesus Hashem hoffen wir, als gleich wie die Kkinders wird sich entdecken, wollen sein Chartered Buses, was soll nehmen alle Schluchen, was wollen zufahren sehen, oder wie wir können rausbringen, kammer Gedanken, wie wir können weisen, oder die Minion von Mashiach, wie Pelmamisch zu der Welt. Wir wollen neuge da machen, als bei Jesus Hashem morgen bei Tag wollen sein in der Saal von alle Teure, oder die, was geben sich ab mit dem neuen Goodwill Campaign, zu bringen Mashiach zu der Welt für Goodwill und Kindness, und die alle Jahre, was man hat heimgerät, mehrere Mal, und wir wollten sehr gewollt, dass jeder Schliach an Ausnahme soll wegfahren zu sich in Stadt, und wir sollen sich alle miyachet sein, mit bringen unter dem Campaign, und durch dem wollen wir zuputzen, die alle Knäpplich sind zugeputzt, nur die kleinen Sachen, was der Rebbe sagt, für was noch nicht gekommen sind und noch nicht getan geworden ist, hoffentlich durch dem wollen wir sich keine miyachet sein. Und allen wünschen eine gute Nacht und eine gute Chedisch, und wie Jesus Hashem morgen Nacht der Segen wird sein Chassidus in alle Teure. Es wird jetzt sein an der Sifa in Room 212 for all of the heads of state. For heads of state and heads of Medinas.